Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment. In this segment, we're going to have a conversation with Mr. Chris Hoyt, CEO of KeifeRx. It's an emerging clinical stage biopharmaceutical company. He's going to discuss the development of optimized low-dose orally delivered tyrosine kinase inhibitors, or TKIs, to treat neurodegenerative and immune diseases. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Chris Hoyt. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for having me this morning.
Well, a bit of your professional background.
In terms of my background, I'm actually relatively new to this industry. I've spent most of my career raising capital, and I've started a number of companies, both in technology and healthcare services. About 2.5 years ago, I became one of the early investors in KeifeRx, and the team had asked if I would come in and take the CEO role in early 2021. With a focus on helping to develop the technology that was developed at Dr. Moussa's lab in Georgetown University. And so for the last roughly 2 years, been on this mission of trying to bring some new ways to treat Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative conditions.
So exactly what are TKIs?
Well, TKIs are essentially a class of drugs that have been used in a number of different indications in the past, mostly in cancer, and specifically in the case of the TKIs that we're looking at, they're used to trigger autophagy, which is the process in the cells for essentially removing unwanted proteins and other unwanted material. And so we've essentially taken this class of drugs and looked to apply it to a new area, specifically in neurodegeneration, and we're doing that using both two existing repurposed compounds, as well as some novel compounds that we're developing ourselves.
At what stage of disease are these TKIs supposed to be most effective?
Well, we've studied use of TKIs in mid to late stage Alzheimer's previously at Georgetown. The trials that we're looking to conduct under KeifeRx would actually be looking at earlier stage Alzheimer's. The concept is that it should work at any sort of stage of the disease, in that, what we're doing with these compounds is triggering autophagy, and we're using that as a way to remove these toxic proteins that build up in conditions such as Alzheimer's or Lewy Body Disease, while those toxic proteins are still inside the cell. And so the idea here is that you essentially kill these proteins before they have a chance to escape the cell and cause more inflammation and more damage in the brain.
Was it cancer research with TKIs that led to this discovery? Was this something accidentally discovered, or was it considered during the cancer treatment with TKI?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. And to be specific, Dr. Moussa had some experience. His father actually had leukemia and was being treated with one of these drugs, Nilotinib in that case, which is a Novartis product. And, he has spent his career working in neurodegeneration, and his thought was, if essentially these TKIs could cross the blood-brain barrier, then the same mechanism of action that was being used in leukemia to kill these, in that case, tumor cells, could be used potentially to do the same in the brain in things like Alzheimer's. And so over the course of 5 to 10 years and a variety of experiments, was able to find that by reducing the dosage in neurodegeneration, these compounds actually would cross the blood-brain barrier, which frankly is a surprise to Novartis and Pfizer, who have these existing compounds that are again approved for CML.
Are there other neurodegenerative conditions that TKIs could be potentially useful in other than Alzheimer's?
Yes, I mean, we think that they have an opportunity to be useful in a variety of different indications. Some that are closely related to Alzheimer's, such as Parkinson's or Lewy body, but also potentially in areas like Lyme disease and other mast cell conditions. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we do have some novel compounds that we're working. They're preclinical that we're working through currently, which we think could have sort of broader applicability across a couple of other indications. But that's still early, and that's something we need to still prove out.
Now, I understand that there's another compound, your lead drug. Tell us a bit more about KeifeRx-01.
Sure. Yeah, and so that essentially is it's a bioequivalent of Nilotinib, which is a Novartis product. We're developing that in conjunction with Sun Pharma in India. Sun Pharma has a bioequivalent of Nilotinib that is the compound that we'll be taking into a phase 3 trial. We have FDA may proceed authority on that trial. And, the interesting thing there is, as a result of the bioequivalent, we're essentially will be testing 2 doses in our trial, both an 84 milligram and 112 milligram dosage, which, is anywhere from 15 to 20% the dose that's used in cancer. So one of the concerns in cancer at the high level dosage that's provided is that there are some heart indications that you need to be concerned about. And because we're using a much lower dose, we haven't seen any of those sort of side effects in our earlier trials. And so we're very excited about the opportunity to take KeifeRx-01 into this phase 3 trial. And it'll be a 1,275 patient trial across 50 to 60 sites. And we're actually working right now with the NIH on a grant application to help support that program.
Is the dosing determination, you said it was 20% of the TKIs that were used or the compound used in cancer. Was it a let's go low and see if we can raise it higher? Or have you discovered that the lower dose is better than the initial higher dose first used, if that was the case?
Yeah. Yes. And so two factors here. One, in order to actually get a compound to break the blood-brain barrier, you do need a lower dose. So anywhere from 150 to 300 milligram dosage was found to penetrate, which is obviously an important component for us. And then the other factor is, in something like cancer, you're actually trying to keep the autophagy process going 24/7, right? You want it to be a continuous process. In neurodegeneration, we really just want to trigger autophagy on a daily basis. We don't want to overtax that process. And so the lower dose helps us to manage the duration of the autophagy process. So in our phase 2 trial, we tested both the 150 and the 300 milligram of Nilotinib itself and found that, the lower dose was actually a better outcome, both in terms of clinically and for patients. And so the 84 and 112 milligrams that I mentioned previously, those doses are lower, but they're equivalent to the 150 and 300 Nilotinib. It's just the bioequivalent has better availability.
Is there anything that you'd like to add as far as the work that KeifeRx is doing? And then give us a website where we can learn more.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think, we're very excited about the opportunity that we have. We have a sort of differentiated approach in Alzheimer's and neurodegeneration. One of the things that I didn't mention is, we actually saw a reduction in inflammation in patients that took our drug during their phase 2 trial, which is, an important consideration, as inflammation is actually one of the sort of the main concerns in some of the other Alzheimer's treatments that are out there. So we're very excited about the opportunity to get that trial underway and equally excited about the chance to see if these types of compounds can also benefit patients, particularly Lewy Body Disease will be the second second trial that we look to run using Bosutinib, which is a Pfizer product. So, we feel very fortunate to have a broad pipeline and are excited about the future there. Best place to find information on Keifer is our website, which is www.KeifeRx.com. That's KeifeRx.com.
Chris, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Lots of great information.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Chris Hoyt, CEO of KeifeRx. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.